Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from lunch. If you are in the hallway and you can hear me and you would like to be a part of what is sure to be an exciting time as we consider renewable energy and AgTech in this investment village, please come on in and have a seat. We are going to get started. Again, I am Anastasia Palacios, and you are at the Caribbean Investment Forum. As you may be aware, it's designed around 4 key areas. And in this room today, we are focusing on renewable energy and AgTech. At this time, I'd like to welcome Michaela Stute. She's the Research Officer with Market Intelligence for Caribbean Export Development Agency. She's going to come, welcome you, lay down some ground rules, and we'll be ready to get started with our companies and the investors in the room. Welcome Michaela as she comes.
Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to the Agricultural Technology, AgTech, and Renewable Energy Village. So, I'll start by just giving you an overview. So, the CIF Investment Villages are curated to unlock the investment potential in the Caribbean. The 4 investment villages will focus on key sectors, which are the priority areas identified for the CIF event, and provide a platform for large-scale bankable projects to be presented to the attending audience. To provide some context, stemming from the agency's work in investment promotion at the CIF 2022, we've recognized that there is no shortage of excellent ideas and concepts coming from the Caribbean region. However, there was a need for these concepts and ideas to be further developed and packaged into bankable investment projects. So, we've taken that feedback into consideration, and here we are today. So at Caribbean Export, we aim to promote Caribbean region as an attractive destination for FDI, showcase the investment readiness of CARIFORM firms, give investors the opportunity to meet with project owners and investment promotion agencies, and forge strategic networking relationships for further follow-up, which could result in future FDI. Specifically for this Renewable Energy and AgTech Investment Village, we will showcase 5 bankable projects, 4 in agribusiness and agricultural technology, and 1 in renewable energy. These projects were packaged by Invest Caribbean for presentation today. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy.
Thank you, Michaela. At this time, we do have a very brief but informative session. We'd like to welcome Danielle Abrahams. She's the Executive Director of something called the Volcani International Partnerships. And she's going to just be sharing briefly on lessons from the front line of the AgTech revolution. She joins us virtually. Please give a round of applause to Danielle Abrahams.
Thank you so much. I want to make sure you can all hear me and make sure you get to see the presentation. I'll continue speaking and assume that we're all set. So I wanted to start by thanking everybody so much for the kind invitation and really apologizing that I can't be with you in person. I'm incredibly disappointed not to be there with you. As you've probably seen in the news, when the war started in Israel, I had to evacuate with my small children. And our NGO, called Volcani International Partnerships, we usually focus on sharing Israel's agricultural know-how with others around the world. And today we're rebuilding the agricultural communities at home. So today, in a very short space of time, I just wanted to share with you some of the lessons from Israel, from the front line of the AgTech revolution, and actually show what might be relevant for the Caribbean. So I don't know how much you know about Israel, but this was the state of agriculture not so long ago. And Israel is a crazy place to do agriculture. It's a tiny country with not much land. 2/3 of the tiny country is desert. which means the soil is poor and there's very limited water. Yet in a very short space of time, Israel transformed its agricultural sector, not only for domestic food security, but critically positioned agriculture as a key driver of economic growth, and then emerged as a global leader in agri-tech, what you might know today. So it's not uncommon today to see the drones flying over the fields in Israel, drip irrigation, which you can see here in the middle, minimizing, the water use. And of course, the high-tech cows. Israel has the most productive dairy cow in the world. It's very high-tech. You can see it's wearing a Fitbit around its neck here in the picture and all of the data to the phone. And just an insight into some of the agri-tech that's happening. None of that transformation could have been possible without the investment, without big projects, and without entrepreneurs and agri-tech leading the way. So we're thrilled that this is the focus today and this week in the Caribbean. Now, just to give you a sense, in Israel, which is a tiny country, there are over 700 agri-tech startups, which is a lot. And they're covering the full value chain from the soil until post-harvest, covering smart farming, crop protection, irrigation and water management. And here you can just see a few examples of the wide range. Now, of course, that comes alongside and is enabled by critical investment. And I share this because I want to give you optimism that this is also possible in the Caribbean. This is the numbers from Israel. Just from the last few years, you can see the amount and the increase in investment that has gone into the sector of agri-food tech and water tech funding. And it's just increasing. Now, I think the Caribbean and the region has a lot of needs, as I'm sure you're all familiar. But the lesson from Israel is that those needs should be viewed as opportunities. Today, the Caribbean faces a huge agricultural import bill. Well, what a wonderful opportunity to actually increase domestic production, offset import, and then look ahead for export. Yes, the Caribbean nations have quite scarce land and water resources. Well, so does Israel. Yet Israel came up with creative innovations and ways around that. What another brilliant opportunity for investors to identify startups and agri-tech companies doing the same. Lack of fertile soil, high cost of inputs. I know we have a company today looking at how to combat the high cost of inputs, for example, fertilizer, with other alternatives. And of course, the vulnerability to climate change. Now, Israel is a world leader in climate resilient agriculture, and this is another opportunity for the Caribbean to rise to the occasion and meet that need and invest in it as an opportunity. Now, I'll end just with 3 key secrets to Israel's success from my mind that I would love to share with you today. One of the key things that enabled Israel to succeed is that it always placed the farmer in the center of everything it was doing. Whether it was an agri-tech startup, the farmer was the core. Whether it was the research system, the farmer was the core. And when the investors came to the table, the farmers were at the core. And by promoting and ensuring the success of the farmer, the agricultural industry was able to flourish. The second secret to Israel's success is what we call Toyota security. We laugh in Israel that everybody around the world keeps talking about food security. And actually, it's a misnomer because we think food security, well, we have to produce enough so we have enough to eat. And that's not what Israel did. Israel always viewed agriculture as a business. Israel always viewed production of food as Toyota security. Once the farmer knows they can make enough money to purchase a Toyota, no one's dealing with issues of food security anymore. And that mindset translated into the investment environment. So Israeli farmers, the agricultural industry, and the companies always had an eye on the market. They always were in tune with what the market needs, and that guided everything they did. And I think that is the key lesson that we also must take here in the Caribbean. And the third secret to Israel's success is what we like to think of as creative resilience. I didn't go into it in great detail, but the challenges Israel faced and still faces are immense. Today, when the farming communities, in the south of Israel were devastated in the terror attack that just happened, we have already established a fund to rebuild and to build better. The essential quality there is not only challenging the status quo, but taking every need and translating it into an opportunity and showing creative and innovative resilience and ensuring you have the partners, the investors, and the entrepreneurs all there together to make it happen. So thank you very much. And I wish everybody great success at the event. And I really, really hope to see you in person one day, perhaps even in Israel or back in the Caribbean. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Let's give her a round of applause. For any of our businesses that will be coming up to share today, I hope that you will just take a deep breath and recognize that if Danielle could join us from across the world, where she's had to flee her home state because of war and still be here to show up, that your job might be just a little easier. Hopefully it takes just a little bit of edge off as you come up. But Danielle, we're grateful for those words, and creative resilience is certainly something that we ought to continue to work at. At this time, I'd like to invite back to the podium Michaela Stute. Of course, we know that she's the Research Officer for Market Intelligence, and she will be introducing the panelists and investors who will help these businesses to go to the next level. Michaela, please join us on stage and introduce the panel.
Good afternoon again for those just joining us. So this afternoon we'll have 5 projects presented here. There will be 10-minute slots. Just let me give you an overview of what's happening. So each project will present for 10 minutes. After this 10 minutes, we'll get a total of 5 minutes of feedback from the panelists participating from the stage, and then we also have panelists participating in the audience. So without further ado, let me just introduce panelists. We have here with us Ahmed Badir. He's from the International Renewable Energy Agency. Ahmed. You will have just met Danielle Abrams joining us. She's from Volcani International Partnerships. Danielle is joining us virtually. Next, we have Ms. Raquel Moses from Caribbean Climate Smart Accelerator. Then we have Aaron Billenberg from Boston Consulting Group. Participating from the audience, we have Rafael Gonzalez from Tau Apiran SAS. We have Fernando Zuniga from MPC Energy Solutions, Mr. Edison Sumner, Sumner Strategic Partners, and Ms. Dika Morrison from Novamed. As I stated, each project presenter will pitch for 10 minutes. Investors participating on the stage will have a total of 5 minutes to provide feedback. Investors participating from the audience will also have a total of 5 minutes. So let's begin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michaela. Is everybody ready? Yes, I'm ready. I'm excited. Before we get started, I do want to say that if you were interested in attending the EU LAC Accelerator, our last presenter before lunch, that is happening now in Adonis 3. So if you do want to be a part of that conversation, now would be the time to exit. Once our presenters start, I want to give them the respect of trying to keep the room as contained as possible. So if you did want to be a part of that presentation, it is happening in Adonis 3. That is the EU LAC Accelerator. Everybody else is here for AgTech, this revolution. And at this time, I'd like to invite our first presenter. Mr. Trevor Blair is the chairman and founder of EcoAid Biotechnology Limited. Trevor will present for 10 minutes, and then we will hear from our judges.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Trevor Blair, and welcome to EcoAid Biotechnology. We make organic products from plants. We're a Jamaican startup planning an exciting and innovative project to transform agriculture. We'll do this by converting sustainable, local, and the key word there is local, raw materials and agricultural waste into high-value, low-cost agricultural products and consumer products. We'll do this while offering excellent returns to investors. I'm not seeing the slide. Oh, I'm sorry. Now, farm input prices skyrocketed by 320% in the last 2 years, and we have seen a 20% drop in global food production in the last 2 years. Now, I live in the Blue Mountains, some 3,000 feet above sea level, and it hurts me to see 67,000 hectares of bamboo growing wild while we're cutting down lumber, trees to make charcoal. It also bothers me to see us losing some 2,200 hectares of forest cover annually. We also import stuff that we should be manufacturing locally. Our project will address the problems of the environment. It will allow farmers to earn more by growing organic crops and increase their yields. Producing charcoal from sustainable materials will reduce pressure on forests, and there's an additional benefit. We will provide employment for jobs lost in the rapidly declining sugar industry. Now, our first product line is based on the carbonization of biomass. We convert biomass into charcoal, and we produce biochar as a soil enhancer, activated charcoal, cooking charcoal, and organic herbicide and pesticide from the byproducts. Our pelletizer line converts biomass into fertilizer and animal feed. All products are sold in bulk and also in small retail packaging at a premium price. To explain how it works, we first cut the material into small pieces. It's fed into the dryer, and from the dryer it goes into a carbonization chamber. The chamber is fed with LNG, and inside the chamber we generate charcoal from a process called pyrolysis. And while this is going on, we generate a hot syngas, which can be used to dry the incoming raw material. It can also be cleaned and fed to the furnace to replace the LNG. So after the first 2 hours, the system is self-sustaining. We condense the pesticide and the tar from the syngas also. Now, for the pelletizer system, chemical fertilizer consists of 3 main ingredients: phosphorus, potassium, and nitrogen. Most plants contain those ingredients too. So we can take, for example, banana, feed it into the crusher, we dry it and pelletize it, and produce pellets that are high in potassium. Similarly, we can feed beans and produce pellets that are high in nitrogen and phosphorus. Or we can use bamboo leaves and soy to produce pellets high in protein. To mix our organic fertilizer and animal feed, we simply blend different pellets together, and we can add additional nutrients in the form of fish meal or urea. Our business is cost-based, transitioning to value-based over time. And we position ourselves initially as a low-cost, high-quality producer. We have spoken to a distributor in Jamaica with over 300 outlets, and they've said they'll carry our products once we are ready to roll. We're also speaking to 2 other distributors who have outlets globally in the US, UK, and as far away as Africa. Our equipment suppliers have promised us that we can get our equipment in a very timely fashion. We can actually be in production of animal feed and fertilizer within 4 months of receiving funding. And we can add the carbonization system, which is more complex, in another 3 months. The equipment manufacturers will send their engineers to Jamaica to assist with installation, training, and testing, and the equipment is all computer controlled, so we can monitor remotely. We have formed alliances with a number of entities. NeonTech is a research institute that does research into biochar, the addition of microbes to biochar to increase nutrient take-up, and in propagation and cloning. We have an agreement with the Ministry of Agriculture to do a joint study on biochar use in Jamaican conditions. And JOME is an NGO with 400 members, and they will provide us with raw materials and take our finished products. We're targeting 6.3 million in revenue in year 1, with 3.7 million in after-tax profits. This increases to 12.3 million by year 3, with 8.6 million after tax. We made some assumptions here. We never exceed 85% of equipment capacity. We only operate a single shift in year 1, which increases to 3 shifts by year 3. And we assume that we will buy raw material for 100 US per ton, although we can get some materials for just the cost of collection. We also assume that we work 300 days a year, with the remaining days reserved for maintenance. Now, Jamaica consumes some 65,000 tons of charcoal a year, mostly used for cooking, valued at 20 million US. And you'd be surprised to know that you have to cut 4 tons of wood to get 1 ton of charcoal, which explains why we're having all the deforestation problems. Now, we are surprised to find that we have 273,000 registered farms in Jamaica, with an average size of 2.7 hectares. If we assume that only 50% of them are active, and calculate how much fertilizer they should be using, and compare that figure to the 34,000 tons that we actually do consume, you can see that the market is heavily undersupplied. We estimate by as much as 75%. For competition, we're competing against hundreds of one-man operators who cut down trees and produce charcoal using earth kilns. Their charcoal is cheap, but very poor quality. There are no local producers of activated charcoal. For fertilizer, there's one very large manufacturer, that's Newport Ferguson. They import chemicals and make chemical fertilizers, which they export through CARICOM. There is also one small operator who imports finished products and bags it in Jamaica. We were surprised to find also that no organic herbicides or pesticides on Jamaican store shelves, which is surprising considering that we are trying to promote the cannabis industry. We have a good team, which consists of Jackie, who is our banking and financial person. I'm the techie. We have Paul, Patrick Chin, who is our financial advisor. Lisa Myers Morgan, who is our technical expert, agronomist, and my turn? I'm sorry, I wasn't getting the thing on screen. I'm sorry.
Trevor, I'll just ask you to stand here. I'll use one of the mics back here to have them ask you some questions, okay? No, it was excellent. Stand right there for me. Yeah. All right. Great. Our mics are working on stage. Let's give Trevor another round of applause. We do have a very brief time to ask questions, so I'd like to get right into it. I want to start with some of our panelists on the stage. And so Ahmed, Raquel, Aaron, and if Danielle is with us virtually, if any of you have questions or comments, we'd love to hear them for Trevor.
So maybe Raquel first, and I will come afterwards.
It should be on here.
It's on? Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Trevor. There was an excellent presentation. You hit most of the notes that I was looking for. I think my favorite part was when you were talking about the circularity of the fuel, you know, how it starts with LNG, but eventually it's processing on its own with using the fuel that it's producing. So I thought that was great. I also liked the ideas of the joint venture partnerships with UE and the other strategic partners, because I think those would be really, really important. The one thing that and I loved the data. You provided so much data, and that's always great to see, because it not only provides you with the context that you need, but it also provides you with confidence, because you're like, they know what they're doing. They've got the data. I think the one thing, and I understand the time was limited, so maybe that was the reason why, that I would have wanted to see, despite the fact that you talked about, well, listen, it's a competitive environment and the quality of charcoal is poor, and you'd be using mostly a domestic market. I didn't hear enough about how are you going to either generate interest in what you're doing so that people know what you're doing, or your customer acquisition strategy. I think those two things would have made it a stronger presentation for me, but I thought it was an already very, very strong presentation with lots of really great details. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you very much for your presentation. I think we need to continue that after these short questions. But let me give you some heads about my key points. Number one, for the ESG dimension, I do see that basically you are missing in the team, or maybe I didn't see in the presentation, that you have ESG person in the team, which is very important, because you're talking about basically the input as fueling with a project from charcoal. So we need to make sure that there is a good team. But secondly, also, what about deforestation? How can you handle this kind of deforestation given you are going to work on charcoal? This is very important. What is the amount of the fuel input and what is the input of the fuel output to make sure that you are going not to lack the revenue and the profit to pay for the debt side of the equity you are asking for? The second issue is about what is the percent of equity to debt. You ask it here for an amount of equities that you need. What about your share? This is very important, we need to know. Third, and very importantly, is the issue of basically the competitive advantage. You didn't refer to what is the competitive advantage to go to the Jamaican market. It's very important. And what is your entry point to the market? What is the country context? I still don't see that, which is very important. In IRENA, we just created a fund, and we would like to see these dimensions all together. So I know that's not enough time to cover all of this, but one final point, it's very important, as this project is basically going to work on the charcoal processing, to see what is, again, I repeat that for a very important, how you will get to ensure there's always sustainable fueling in and what is fueling out, and how you will manage the waste to management at the end. That's exactly my colleague Raquel mentioned about the circularity of the resources, of the few resources. It's very important. And again, the issue of the team persons on that part, as well as a financial entrepreneurship for the startup, is really very important. I will stop here. I'm sure my colleague will add to this. Thank you very much.
Great, excellent. Excellent presentation, very exciting. And the problem we were looking to solve is critical. And you laid it out very clearly. I'll actually frame this differently. 3 things that I think future investors will ask you. One is your feedstock, so the certainty, the quality, the dependability of what you're getting for inputs. The second is that they're going to ask you to focus on 2 products, 1 maybe, not 10, because it's always very hard, you know, to get the resources to market 10 different products with 10 different use cases. And the other, it's more of a question, but the question will be, how will you get your products to market? Given that there's so many small farmers, they probably have very unconventional ways of purchasing. There might be different networks. It's going to be very complicated. And you may or may not want to get into the business of basically being the distributor. That's a design choice. So 3 things that might come up.
Thank you.
And do we have any investors from the floor that have any feedback or commentary? Of course, you would have been introduced earlier, and so you know your names. But if there's any feedback from the floor, there are mics right here. We have about 3 more minutes left to give Trevor some feedback if there is any for him. Mr. Sumner?
Thank you very much, Mr. Blair. Great presentation. Realized I didn't have time to finish it, but I just have 3 or 4 very simple questions. Again, coming from an investor's perspective. One, and I believe it might have been asked in another kind of a way, but what is the real sustainability of the business?
I'm sorry, Peter.
The sustainability factors of the business going forward, right? What are going to be the sustainability factors? What are going to be your methods for customer acquisition? I think was asked that question just now in a different kind of way. What are the cost comparisons between yourself and the other several hundred others in that industry producing this product? And what is your real competitive advantage against all those other persons who are in that industry? Those are my 4 questions.
Okay. In terms of customer acquisition, we're working with the Ministry of Agriculture on this joint project, and if it goes well, which I'm sure it will, they will promote our products to the farmers. Secondly, as I say, we have an arrangement with a distributor who has over 300 outlets throughout Jamaica, and they've agreed to carry the product. Third, we plan to have exhibitions and shows and training sessions where we will expose people to the product. We will work with the Jamaica Agricultural Society and other farm groups, and that is how we hope to build out our acquisition. I'm sorry, what are the other questions?
Did he get everything, Mr. Sumner, or is there another? Competitive advantage.
Okay. Our product is higher quality than what's being produced using the earth kilns. It burns longer, it burns hotter, and it's much more consistent. Also, we are producing a range of products from a limited number of inputs. For example, we put bamboo in, we get charcoal, we get activated charcoal, which is used in pharmaceuticals, filtration, we get the herbicide and pesticide. So it means that we are extremely profitable. Things that you'd normally throw away, like the pyroligneous acid and the tar, those become very, very valuable commodities. For example, the pyroligneous acid, for every ton you put in, you get 80 kilograms of acid out. And that sells in America for $2.75 per ounce in a concentrate form. So this is what gives us our advantage. The number of products we get from a limited number of inputs and the high value of what we're putting out, and the fact we don't waste anything.
Excellent, thank you. Well, if there are no more questions, I see none from the investors in the room. Let's give a round of applause to Trevor, and
Thank you.
thank you to him and his team for that presentation. So our next presenter, and for all the presenters, I just want you to be aware that there is a monitor here that guides your time. And so this is to just let you know how much time you have left to present. In terms of your presentation itself, it will appear on either screen on the side of you, and this remote, of course, is there to guide that presentation. Okay? All right, so let's keep it going. Great stuff coming out of Jamaica there. And now this company is actually based here in the Bahamas. Next, we have Constantina Hamilton McKinsey. She is the CEO and agricultural technician for Proserpina, AgTech Bahamas. Let's give her a round of applause as she comes.
Good day, Caribbean. My name is Constantina, and I'll be presenting on behalf of Proserpina Agriculture Technology. The presentation is not pulling up. I'm pressing it.
All right, so we've restarted her time. And tech team, can I just get a check? I'm pressing the green forward button and it's not proceeding.
Oh, go back.
All right, we're perfect. Going back one more with the red button.
Yeah.
That's the beginning?
Yeah.
All right, she's ready.
All right, we're going to start again. Good day, Caribbean. My name is Constantina, and I'll be presenting on behalf of Proserpina Agriculture Technology. At Proserpina, we undice tomatoes. You see, in order for an agricultural product to make it to the market, it must be deemed food safe and meet market demand. Now, in order to ensure that this tomato is one of our tomatoes, made by a Caribbean producer or processor, we have to undice the certified tomato. We must undice the inputs that went into this tomato. We must undice the producer and processor's GAP practices, mode of operations. We have to undice the distributor's ways of transporting your goods. We are essentially undicing the value-added chain. And at the end of this process, I still gotta be able to afford this tomato. Caribbean producers and processors are struggling to comply with the higher agri-food safety standards. And that's partly due to gaps within the agriculture infrastructure. They either do not know what is necessary to comply, or they cannot financially afford to comply. Affording to comply could be upgrading their operations and equipment to food tech level. It could be training their staff to get food handling licenses, or even affording the business permit. So we have looked into this and realized it has impacted us. We now depend on imports to feed us, to feed our tourists, and supply raw materials. Proserpina AgTech has a twofold solution to this issue. We believe in supplying a physical agriculture infrastructure which is operated and managed by a digital agriculture brick chain software. We have designed an agriculture industrial park with products and services that are streamlined in supporting the next generation agriculture entrepreneur with production, processing, and marketing. We are an entire value-added chain in one location. If we're starting from the beginning, input supplies. You need a farm supply store. We need specialized, certified growing spaces, equipment, and software. You need rental equipment. Then you need somewhere to wash, bag, tag, and grade large quantities of items. You need a post-harvest packing house. And then you not only need to sell within shelves in your region, you need to be able to sell within the whole community of the Caribbean. We have an online market. And last but not least, education, training, and certification. It is listed last, but at our institution, at every aspect, there's an opportunity because we have a research and development center. Now, In the Caribbean, we're not only serving sun, sand, and sea, we're serving up a few natural disasters, hurricanes, floods, you name it. This is why our facility is 75% packable. If it blowing too hard in the east, we move in a little to the west. In addition, we're off-grid, which means after these natural disasters, our downtime is decreased for our customers so they can get to their customers faster. So agriculture is not only crop production, it's crop production, livestock production, and the way that the Bahamas and the Caribbean is going, medicinal marijuana. Therefore, we have 3 structural models that are operated and managed by 3 different digital agricultural software. The first, which you have an example here, is the one that we're building in Grand Bahama, in the Grand Bahama Port Authority area, crop production, where our system sits with seed to shelf, our livestock does field to freezer, and our medicinal marijuana from plucking to puffing. So we have 6 services, but 7 revenue streams. So today, everyone is going to be a tomato farmer. So we start with your input supplies at the farm supply store, but before you spend your first dime, AgriVV, the digital agriculture software company that's been working with us for the past year, has done a forecasting system. So you know what to buy, how much to buy, and how to sort yourself out as a customer here. So after you've gotten your inputs, the next step is to get to the commercial rentals. You can do your tomatoes hydroponically, aquaponically, field production. You can access the automatic transplanters and different equipments at the rentals. Then from there, you have harvested your products. Your COGS of production has been calculated with the software, and now we need to bag, tag, wash, and grade, which is at the packing house. Then from the packing house, we offer you an option most companies don't. You can pivot with your cases of tomato. Put your tomato directly on the shelf yourself or use our online market. And last but not least, we have something called ugly tomatoes. They're still good to eat, but not nice to look at. We have processing units, so that tomato can become tomato paste. And our 7th revenue stream is big data. We own all the data in our systems. NGOs, marketing companies, they would like to access this data. We are a franchise company, not just in Grand Bahama. We expect to be across the Caribbean, so we can connect the data. We track people, money, the environment, and where the food is going. So Proserpina expects to be open within 2 to 3 years with a $500,000 investment. However, we still do plan, because money comes in when it does. We can do it in 5 years as well. It's 3 phases. Proserpina has been at it from 2017, and now we're at 2023. 3 significant things has occurred. 1, we focus on gaining our partners along with the industry that supplies multiple services. Then we partnered with Bahamas Entrepreneur Venture Capital Fund, where we received our first $150,000 investment. Then we had our groundbreaking ceremony, and we're hoping to open at the end of this year with the first phase, which is the farm supply store and first set of rentals. Why now seems a little redundant to me, because we are all sitting in this room because of farm technology. The current agricultural system across the Caribbean is slow. It is costly, and it doesn't help businesses operate and run a business successfully. Food standards are going to continue to go up. Agencies are now recognized as a serious investment, and we're sitting in a room like this because agriculture investment is the way to go. We expect, with an IRR of 93%, to be generating $500,000 by year 3 and $1.8 million by year 5. 3,000 registered farmers within the Bahamas. That's only our first set of entrepreneurs. There are still 200,000 plus throughout the Caribbean. We expect to have 3 other locations throughout the Bahamas. We offer significantly more value than the other alternative within the Bahamas. There's only 1 other location within New Providence where the industry here has other options for value-added chain. We plan on being opening throughout the rural communities, also known as the Family Islands, where they have no other option but us when we land for products and services along the value-added chain. Our team is made up of myself and then Impact International Group, along with the Grand Bahama Port Authority, who has supported us throughout. We're aiming to raise $500,000 in investment, where 70% of it goes in infrastructure and equipment, where 30% is staff and operations. Now, to put the cherry tomato on top of my presentation, I want you guys to imagine with me a Caribbean fighting against food insecurity, where we have the ability to put the tomato on the shelves ourselves. It can be a Bayesian tomato, a Bahamian tomato, it can be anywhere in the Caribbean. Let's start to feed ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Constantina. So I think I will do this as we get prepared for our questions. I've learned, Trevor, so forgive me for not doing this initially with you. Tina, if you want to go down there, maybe you can get a notepad, and perhaps the questions that they're asking, it'll be helpful to jot notes so that you can keep it, or you have something there to take notes with. If not, I'll invite you to use them. Okay, excellent. So we have some help. And now I will turn it over to our esteemed panel. And we will start with you, since we started with her last time.
Fantastic presentation. Sign me up, right? I think the only one kind of comment question that might come up is which one of the, do you know the margins for each of your services, right? Do you know the margins for each of the different services that you're providing? Not to discuss now, but you're providing a whole life cycle solution, right, to some degree, right? And so there may be a question about which one of these does it make sense to really be in? Do you need all of them? Because setting up each of those services is going to require quite a bit of capital up front. So it was more of a question in mind is how much of this is essential in terms of all your services versus the ones that are really the most important for the business and for the farmer. So just a question that may come up.
Okay, all right. So what we did is it's a value-added chain, and the most essential, so we phased it according to the most essential. So the first two in our phase one would be the farm supply store, and it would be the 4 half-acre lease lots. And that is because there's no other farm supply store within the Bahamas at the current moment, and then we have shipping and routes that gets us to the other market, and then we can have online. So that is more profitable in the beginning. Then in addition, there's no other rental facilities in existence for land to do production. Well, let me correct. There's other options, but they're not where we're located in the city. They're really far out. And then we are providing facilities where we have power and water. We have more options. So we did the margins, we did the value-added chain and the phases according to what is necessary first, what we can make the most profit first, and then maximize in the market. And then from there, we're creating business for ourselves. So now we have more access to equipment and technology and input, which means there's more ability for the farmer to succeed, which means they need more places to grow. So we phased it according to what was necessary cost effectively, and then what would create more market for our customers at the end of the chain. So we did it that way.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Thank you very much. It's for me, it's a very clear presentation. It ticks most of the box with the all question of a project. However, I have 3 points I would like to highlight. When I looked at the presentation, I realized that one of the services you are providing is to provide diesel transplanters. I would suggest if you change that into any kind of ion lithium or battery storage-based solution, because these diesel generators really add to polluting the environment, and I think this is basically going against the issue of mitigation efforts that Bahamas is doing. I would really suggest that. The second important point that you did not give enough details about the team. I just only realized it's you and other colleagues. And for me, it's very important for sustainability because they didn't talk about sustainability. And I think one of the very important dimensions here is that if you are using basically, as our colleague, Ms. Daniela Abrahams mentioned in the earlier presentation about, for example, you are using drones. I can see that one of the services you are providing. But I didn't see how can you use that, for example, for accurate or accuracy irrigation, which is something very important for sustainability. And this adds to my other point about where is your team on sustainability dimension and using such kind of technologies. My final point, and I'm sorry for being long, it's about monetization, because you're taking the box of 25% equity to debt. I understand that. You are securing about $500,000 and you're asking for 1.5. That's really good. But the point, what is your clear strategy for monetizing these 1.5 million additional? Plus, what is your exit strategy? I can see that there is a lot of revenue streams coming, and this is really competitive advantage, so market is there. But what is your exit strategy? And again, what is the monetization strategy you are doing? This is my 2 points. Thank you, and sorry for being long.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. My favorite was that you were so enthusiastic. I was like, I like him, sign me up. I definitely want to be a part of it. I also love that you presented a wealth of information within the timeline. You actually had like a minute plus to spare, but covered all of the points. I think for me, because it was so compelling and so convincing, it made me worry about the risks. Like, what are the risks of this not happening, and why hasn't this model, other examples of this model either working or not working, and why it would or wouldn't work. And I especially appreciate when something is this sort of clear and just like a no-brainer. This is how we should be doing it, and this is how we should be delivering food security to the region. If you introduce the element of known risks, then it helps me to know that you've prepared for those risks, and this is how you plan to mitigate for those. But apart from that, I thought it was absolutely flawless, and listen, I'm going to eat tomato tonight.
Just to respond to your comment, I would like to confess that agriculture industrial parks is not an original idea. It has been utilized in European countries and across, even in Africa. They have international organizations, and Jamaica. Jamaica is going up to their 9th agriculture industrial park, where they produce over, I think, $1 to $6 million per agriculture industrial park. When it comes to the SWOT analysis, the weaknesses and threats, is when you're developing it, we create industry for others. So as we phase and we help others produce, then there comes more production, which means, for example, people come up with a packing house because people are producing more. And then the other SWOT analysis that we were dealing with was the natural disasters coming within the Caribbean zone. So we've been working with companies to design the facility. Like I said, only 75% packable. So we actually move these facilities when necessary. And as a franchise model, we wanted to help with the Caribbean market. So if you're in the Bahamas and you have a jam company and we're in Barbados and you want a rental facility, it decreases your cost and risk because we have the analysis between two countries, and then there are procedures and protocols to know if it makes sense. So that's how we were keeping with the data. The data is how every time a risk pops up, we are there. So in the research facility, hopefully with IECA, UWI, or Prairie View University, which we've been speaking with, they can be there to help us because we know the challenges are coming, that the research is activated. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Tina. Do we have any questions or comments from investors on the floor? We do have 2 minutes left.
Can I jump in from the screen?
Oh, yes, Danielle, please. Oh, sorry, I missed you.
It's okay. I just wanted to congratulate you on a really wonderful presentation. I'll make my comments very quick so we can also get from the floor. I was in the Bahamas last year. We were advising your former Minister of Agriculture, Minister Sweeting, and the idea of an agro-industrial park, we know is exactly what's needed. I brought one of Israel's top tomato experts over, so I can tell you from being on the ground that you can grow domestically all of your tomatoes and meet your complete domestic need. A few quick points I just wanted to raise, and you don't have to answer. We know that the success of agro-industrial parks is also closely dependent on the policy environment in play. And I wondered, or this is just to think about the role on your team and aligning in terms of policy consistency, continuity and alignment with the government policy. It's very hard to encourage domestic producers to produce one crop, perhaps when there's very cheap imports flooding in. So just to think about that. The other key element which we saw on the ground in Grand Bahama is the real challenge in terms of agricultural extension and the experts. And from a technical perspective, your case and success would be dependent on the success of those producing in your plants. And I think I saw something about the research, but we think the agricultural training and the agronomy is essential to the farmer's success. But congratulations on a great presentation.
Thank you. All right, and so some great notes there for you, Constantina. We have about 40 seconds left. If there's someone that wants to give a comment, she wouldn't necessarily be able to respond in this session, but certainly if you would like to give her a comment, we can accommodate that. All right, Mr. Sumner will take these last 20 seconds.
So it's really just a, is this on? It's really just a comment that we believed in her project. We invested in her because she demonstrated real leadership capabilities and real entrepreneurship, ingenuity, creativity, and the rest of it. And that is why we expressed our confidence in her business by partnering with her in what she's doing. So congratulations. I think you're going to do very well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Constantina. And thank you, of course, to all of our panelists who have been giving feedback. It continues, it continues. Coming up next. Oh, I do.
Sorry. So I just have a very short thing to say. I was moved to get up and just show appreciation to this young lady, this young woman. As a woman in the Caribbean, I wanted to say that I was really impressed, not only with your presentation, but also what you're doing for our Caribbean. Our people, especially our young people, have the mentality that we shouldn't be in agriculture because of history. What you're doing here, I really hope that there are government persons in this audience, as well as private sector investors, that would see this and recognize that we can replicate this across the region. Food security is a real issue globally. We saw what could happen potentially to us in the region, and we import so much food. So I hope that this is something that we could replicate. So I just wanted to say thank you and how proud I am of what you just did.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And of course, we'd love for you to continue to give that type of feedback to all of our presenters who I'm sure need it. And of course, we invite you to do that once the session is done so that we can just manage our time effectively here. Our next presenter now, we're very happy to welcome our newest. Up next is Pavana Energy. Pavana Energy, and the founder and chairman and CEO is Omar Alahar. So if Omar is ready, we are ready to hear from Pavana Energy. Let's give Omar a round of applause as he joins us on stage.
Thank you. Let me just start.
Please.
Hello, everyone. I met Director Miraj yesterday and introduced myself, Omar Alahar, and he said to me, "Oh, that's a rock star name." I guarantee you I'm not going to sing for you all. You all would never like to hear that. I am here to present Pavana Energy Limited project, Portland Plantation, climate resilient, hybrid wind and solar farm. Sorry. Maybe that one, yeah. I'm a structural engineer by profession, structural civil engineer. I've traveled all over the Caribbean post-disasters, seen the sort of damage that hurricanes do to our infrastructure, and through that, realized the passion for renewable energy and also trying to make it climate resilient in a way that the Caribbean can have real energy security. A lot of people doing renewable energy, but not necessarily in a climate resilient way. So we are designing in Barbados renewable energy plants. In this particular project I'm presenting, it's a full hybrid wind, solar, and batteries. So it will produce firm power 24/7, 365 days a year. We use advanced climate resilient technology, and we have a partner in France that does wind turbines that turn down during hurricanes. The next day they're back up and running. We have several examples of this all over the world, and they have been tried and tested and proven in these environments. As I said, because of my background as an engineer, we have the skills to know how to design these things. I've done many designs, not just for Pavana Energy, but for other clients, not just in renewable energy and other building infrastructure as well. In 2013, the Barbados government created a feed-in tariff program where you get guaranteed feed-in tariff rates for 20 years. You get a PPA, a feed-in tariff contract, they call it. And so the investment is secured for 20 years and very financeable. This project at Portland is going to be our third project. And because the grid is getting absorbed in Barbados, we have 100 megawatts of solar on the grid now. It's getting to the point where intermittent energy can no longer go on the grid. So we are adding batteries and solar to this project so that we can produce firm power. We expect this project to be finished towards the middle to end of 2025 and be generating energy on the grid. I've already said this, we will get a 20-year contract from the Fair Trade Commission. This is a picture of our first project with everybody's presenting about agriculture. Our project is an agricultural project as well. We built our first project on a dairy farm, and so we get milk and energy. We hope to be turning over about $2.5 million by year 5, and this would be from all our projects. That's a picture of our first wind farm and my partner in the business here, Donnie Prescott. You can see how they turn down and the blades are secured during hurricanes. The other thing is, because they turn down, we can service them just using a ladder, and you don't have to be working at height. Easy to service, easy to maintain. The government policy for renewable energy in Barbados is about 600 megawatts of solar and 300 megawatts of wind. That wind farm I showed you is a 1 megawatt wind farm, so there's a lot of runway left. We're the first movers in Barbados. We have the best experience in this sort of thing, and all of that leads to a solid business investment. Our team, we have many more people in the team than this, but this is all that could fit on the slide. We have experience in engineering design, and Lisa there is takes care of us and human resources, etc. We want to raise about $7.7 million in the form of debt, equity, or a mix of both. That's the last slide, but I would like to say that in the Caribbean, as we all know, energy is a real challenge. In Barbados last month, the fuel clause adjustment alone was 22 US cents a kilowatt hour. The projections for the oil price for the next 2 years, you can look at these things on the future market, is about the fuel charge will probably go up to about 30 cents a kilowatt hour in the next 2 years. So our projects will be saving the island money, saving the island foreign exchange, and hopefully helping the Caribbean to be a more economically viable place for business, etc. Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you. All right, I am going to switch up a bit now and find out if our investors from the floor have any questions or comments from Omar before returning to our panel investors. Please, investors, there are mics here at the front of the room, if you can walk toward the front of the room. And of course, these questions are for those investors in the room specifically.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for your presentation. 4 quick questions. What is the cost per kilowatt hour of your base load system with battery projected to be?
The total capex is about 12 million US.
Yeah, no, cost per kilowatt hour with your battery, with your wind power and battery, what's your cost per kilowatt hour?
We will be selling on the grid for about 21 US cents per kilowatt hour. The actual levelized cost of energy, I'll have to check that and give you the exact, but we have a large margin in there, yeah.
All right, you didn't give the ROI. What is the ROI on your project?
The ROI on these things without finance tends to be about 8 to 9 years.
You have that in a percentage, return on investment?
Sorry, I didn't hear that one.
Do you have that in a percentage? What type of return on your money? You know, you can put your money in various investments. What type of return would an investor get by putting his or her money into your project? 2%, 8%, 10%,
yeah,
90%?
Yeah, the more equity you put in these projects, the less the ROI, because we would service the rest with debt. So it all depends on the level of equity that's put in. But anything from 12 to 16%.
Renewables is something that we're interested in. Of course, any renewables in the Caribbean, we can assist with sourcing funding for you. But these are some of the questions that the investors would ask you. Two last questions. Number one, I didn't hear what is your exit strategy, or what is an investor's exit strategy in your project? And the last question is, how long have you been in the business? Those are the last two questions. Thank you very much. But renewable energy, you're on the right track there. And if you're interested, we can talk about it further after the session. Thank you.
Okay. Just to clarify, last two questions, exit strategy, and what was the other one?
How long have you or your partners been in the energy space?
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, I'll answer the second one first. We started Pavana Energy in 2012, and before that we were consulting on energy projects in the Caribbean, particularly the structural civil engineering aspects of it. In terms of investors' exit strategy, there could be any number of things. If they want preferential shares and a bullet payment at the end. Maybe one day a bigger company like Fernando here will buy us out, or there's many different ways to exit.
Thank you. This will be our last question from the floor, and then we'll return to our panel.
Thanks, Omar, for the presentation. I think very clear, and it's very important also to have experience in the region. I think you've done a great job, so this is one of the first things the investors community look at, what is the track record of the company. So I think you are in the right track. So perhaps as a feedback, maybe it's always very interesting to hear, especially in the Caribbean, in the islands, what is the O&M strategy, especially on the spare parts. We have experience already in other countries, like in Mexico or even in Costa Rica, where there's a lot of wind farms, but even when there's a problem with the wind farm, they have to rely to take the spare parts from another country. So here in Barbados, I mean, I think that wind is not so popular, but I mean, yes, I think it will be important to hear what is the strategy on the spare parts, and also that comes together with the insurance. I mean, the strategy on the insurance when you have that, so, yeah.
Very good question. The turbines that we are using are a very simple mechanism. Anybody that can service an excavator or a truck can service these. When we bought the first set of turbines, we bought a series of a 40-foot container of tools to service them. So the second project will be a bit cheaper. We also bought a 40-foot container of spare parts. You name it, from hoses to consumables to pumps. Because they're turned down, and because of the simple mechanism, they have a gearbox in them. A lot of people want to say, oh, we want direct drive wind turbines, but that comes with its own complexities, as you just pointed out. Some of these wind turbines are very specialist and have to have a specialist team on island. In small economies we have here, we can't necessarily build large wind farms. You'd need, when I say large, 20 turbines, unless in the Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico or something like that. And so to have a team on the ground full-time maintaining them is very expensive. We have a fully trained team, simple maintenance, and so far it's been going very well. We maintain them every 6 months, standard maintenance, and outside of that, if something specifically breaks, a hose, a hydraulic hose, or we have all of that equipment on site to fix it.
Thank you for that. Whether online, Danielle, or here on the panel, yes, certainly go ahead, Abraham.
Thank you, Omar, for your presentation.
Yeah, Irina came and toured our site in Barbados as well.
I know,
Yeah,
I'm aware, yes.
yeah.
So, first of all, that in continuation of what Fernando mentioned, I would really appreciate if you give us some kind of highlights about your exit strategy within the business model. Is that going to be BOO or BOT? Because you are having 20 years of concession. So by the end of the concession, is part of your exit strategy is that you go for transferring the facility to the government, or is that you end with operate? This is number one. The second point I noticed now about your turbine. Basically, you are working for a simple turbine, not high-tech turbine. I understand that. And this explains to me, which I need your confirmation into this. If you are counting for almost $7 billion out of the equities that you need for investment, this means the remaining for balance of plant together about 800,000, which for me a bit risky. So we need your clarification to this, given that you have your operation maintenance team, and you just explained that you're going for a cheaper maintenance. So the question is, what exactly kind of wake effect and shadow effect of the turbines, given the fact, I believe you didn't explain anything about the geometrical design of the plant, because you're going to be combined or hybrid. So it's a complicated question, I know, but you need to explain to us how you can contain that within the exit strategy. The last point actually about, you need to explain to us about, I understand very well that Barbados have bird migration still, and this is very killing if you combine that with wind turbine group. So did you make ornithological analysis or bird migration analysis? And within your teams that you mentioned, you didn't explain about the sustainability team. Is there be an environmental expert or not? I think these are the key points that we would like to see. And thank you very much, Omar. You have a wonderful project. I myself, as Irina, we are ready to support your project, financially speaking, within the fund that we have. Thank you very much, Omar. Over to you.
Thank you.
Omar, I won't let you respond right now because we are going to run out, and I think they also have some comments for you, but if you can just take note, these are the things to enhance further.
Sure.
Are there any final words?
Great presentation. Also, I think just emphasize the 24/7 power is really important, and that's kind of your niche. Actually, just really specific ones. If you could explain a bit, and maybe it's later, the use of proceeds exactly in terms of what it's going to take to get to a project financing, that might be helpful in terms of exactly what the timelines are, and then also any red flags, whether it's permitting or anything to do with the land rights, or if there's anything that you could, interconnection, anything you could see that's kind of a big variable, because unfortunately, I think you've seen that, I'm sure, before. The interconnection costs and timing can be a deal killer when it comes down to it. So, yeah, any major red flags, always interesting here.
All those are simple answers. We can discuss that later, yeah.
I think for me, thank you so much for the presentation, but for me there were three things. The first thing was the fact that the cost per kilowatt hour wasn't clear in the presentation. I think that is something, if you're talking about an energy project, that has to be really clear. And I think the fact that it's high compared to some other forms of renewables, I would decouple the cost per kilowatt for the production of energy separate from the storage. So then maybe you're looking at, okay, this is what it costs on par with some other competitive installations for renewables, so that you're comparing apples with apples. Because when I thought I saw 38 cents, and then you said 21
sorry,
cents.
There was a bit of confusion when we were doing anything. That 38 cents is Barbados cents, not US cents.
Gotcha.
Right,
But again, if you're
And that
selling
is that's not cost, that's the income, that's what they pay us.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, for a renewable energy project, I feel like you wanna sell that cost per kilowatt hour up front, and an investor will want to know, what are you producing at?
Yes.
You know, so that is super clear. And, you know, so I think for me, that I would want to make sure that you're structuring the presentation in a way that people get how it's compared and what the profitability is going to be at the kilowatt hour perspective.
Thank you. Danielle, we are out of time on this panel, but I would invite you to share. You're good? Thank you so much. Omar, let's give Omar and Pravana Energy a round of applause, and of course to our panelists and our investors from the floor. Thank you so much for your time. At this time, we do have a brief video intermission, so if we can have that come up, please, tech team. Islands, it's just a reminder of how fortunate we are to live in a place so beautiful. Next, we're very happy to welcome Dr. Judy Lynn Telsford-Checkley. Dr. Judy Lynn Telsford-Checkley, she's the co-founder and CEO of Grenada Grows. Please welcome her as she comes and give her a round of applause.
I want to make sure I could use this.
So the green is going to send you forward and the red goes back. So press the green for us.
It's not moving.
I saw it. Try one more time for me.
Am I pressing it here or? Okay, so you do it right here? Okay. Okay. All right. Could we restart the time? So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Judlyn Telsford-Checkley. I am the co-founder and CEO of Grenada Grows. Grenada Grows is a startup company that aims to use waste, mainly fish and chicken waste, with the biomass, to turn it into fertilizer and compost products using technology that's already in use in the US, and it's one of our partners. Now, 4 years ago, I returned home to Grenada after spending 17 years in the US, working on my PhD and other degrees in the environmental field. I also worked at the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality in waste management and water quality management. Since returning home, I worked on Grenada's NDC to help the country develop its climate change commitments. I've spent a year at consultancy at the Fisheries Division, and I've also worked on other national projects such as Grenada's National Ecosystem Assessment. Now, I'm saying all of this because I'm not only excited about this company being a successful company, but I'm also excited about the partnership we were able to put together to make this happen and the impact it can have on our island as we consider climate resilience for our islands. So we address 3 national challenges, and through our combined efforts, we will be able to reduce our food import bill. We're going to be able to divert waste from our landfill, and also increase human health through better water quality, better air quality overall. So our public-private partnership is with the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority. The Organilloc is a US company already producing and selling fertilizer using the same their proprietary technology, and so we do not have a technology risk here, and the government of Grenada, the Ministry of Agriculture, and the Ministry of Climate Resilience. So social impact is really a core part of Grenada Grows, part of our model. So we really want to show that we also are a profitable business, but we can also help develop our communities, whether it's through building fish cleaning sites for fishermen. We get to collect the fish waste, they get a place to clean their fish. Community projects, community gardens, school programs. And these are the different SDGs that we impact. So this circular model really shows how Organilloc is able to use its soil, its nutrient-infused soil technology to turn fish, chicken, woody biomass into products that are able to regenerate our soils and increase our productivity. One of the key factors here, too, is being able to help our chicken farmers that are currently responsible for managing their own waste. We're able to take that waste away from them and turn it into something useful. This shows the benefits of partnerships, SDG 17. We have regulatory support from our government ministries, technology from Organilloc, but also through a partnership with the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine campus in providing testing and validation. We had the technology support. Also a supply chain from the solid waste, but also our fish markets, our fish plants, and our chicken farmers. We plan to do this in two ways. Through our partnership, our facility will be located adjacent to the landfill, and so that's where we have our fertilizer and compost plant. But another important element is the retail center, retail and education center, because we want that one-on-one interaction with our farmers. We also want to be able to bring in the proper retail supplies that they've been asking for. Water pumps, other climate resilient supplies that they have difficulties finding. We want to create a space for organic farmers to sell their produce. We want to be able to work with other partners to work on education, bringing back that interest in agriculture through school programs, community programs. So we'll be selling 5 main products that spans a wide variety of applications, from pots to in-ground application, and that includes a liquid plant food that also serves as an insecticide. We have a plan, whether it's through phased approach with incremental funding, or we get all the funds all together, we're ready to hit the ground running. So this is our implementation plan. So we're happy to report that we'll be profitable by year 5. And so we're very happy about that, with good gross margins. Let me go back here. Our addressable market includes our gardeners, our smallhold farmers, and through different programs, we really want to encourage people to grow their own food, whether it's through a container garden. I gardened on my second floor balcony while in college. So really, it's about getting people to grow their own food and being more interested in agriculture. We are unlike any other. We're going to be the first made in Grenada fertilizer company. We're going to have that one-on-one interaction with our farmers. Farmers are really at the core, and also different community, fisher folks and other groups. But really, there's no comparison. We have a strong group of leaders, including our advisors, and we continue to engage with others to pull the right team together. We are looking to raise $3 million in either loan or equity or a mix of them. And you can see, really, it's really heavy on infrastructure because we have to build from scratch, we have to bring in our equipment. But we will be profitable by year 5. So I just want you to end by picturing our retail center. Our regular day, we have our farmers interacting with our in-house agronomists about the next year's purchase of fertilizers. We have our gardeners discussing the different crops and getting different tips from our in-house agronomists as well. We may have a team of high schoolers looking at our display centers and learning more about agriculture. We have farmers market producing organic products for them, for our local customers. And at the back of it all are a group of partners working together to make this happen. This is scalable, so we want to get it right in Grenada and scale this across the Caribbean because, as we know, all Caribbean islands, all islands, a matter of fact, have a waste management problem. And we were able to use that to help solve that solution and make a profitable business. So I thank you so much, and I look forward to engaging with each and every one of you.
Thank you, Dr. Judy Lynn Telford-Checkley, and of course, the round of applause is very appropriate. At this time, we would like to open up for questions. Danielle, do you have anything for us online? We can't hear her, so if we can just get her sound across.
Now, can you hear me? Is that better?
That's
I was
better,
on mute to make sure I wasn't disturbing. So first of all, congratulations on a great presentation. I love the commitment coming back and really bringing your expertise back to Grenada. The 2 points for me was more on the technical front. The first is actually about the waste, the source of waste. I noted that you said you're starting with the fish and chicken waste and then possibly expanding. The 3 key things about the waste that I think could be clearer as well as an important is where you would be sourcing it from afterwards, if it's also domestic waste, and where the separation is done. I know glass is quite a big challenge at the moment in certain waste. What's the quality of the waste? And is there sufficient waste for actually the processing? And the second, I think you alluded to right at the end when you said, this is, I want you to envision the future, and this is where our center would be and farmers could come. And you mentioned interacting with in-house agronomists. I wondered to what extent you've actually checked the market with the farmers, how open they are to using these products, what the price comparison might be, and how you're going to actually ensure that they know how to use the products correctly. They were the 2 key points.
Thank you.
So I'll go ahead and address that. Thanks so much for your question. In terms of the waste, so the fish waste, the chicken waste, and the woody biomass, that is the specific formula for our fertilizer. For the compost, we plan on using the food waste, and we are planning on sorting our waste, so that's part of our cost as well. So this came upon a need by our waste landfill, which is running out of space. So we do plan on sorting. In terms of sufficient waste, our numbers came from having first a survey of the available waste that's on the island. So we spoke with the fish plants, we spoke with the fish markets, and so these were our estimates. But we also have additional plans to gain more waste through different fishermen that goes out at sea. So we have additional incentives. Some of them go out for 7+ days. So we are working with them to bring back in the waste. So that's just a start. And so our estimates are really conservative, but just at a conservative rate, we already could see a profit with that. The last part is how open the farmers will be. This is the very reason we wanted to have that one-on-one with our farmers. And so luckily through my consultancy job, I've had these one-on-one, and I'm currently doing a consultancy right now with the FAO. I've had these one-on-one with our farmers, and we know one of the first things that we're gonna have is resistance. So what better to be able to work directly rather than give our product to someone to sell? We want to be able to work directly with them. We go to their farms, we say, okay, here's how you do it. And so that's the reason we want to have that one-on-one. So they get a better understanding of how to use the product rather than just leave it on a shelf and they use it incorrectly. So I hope I addressed the questions.
Thank you. Ahmed, Raquel, Aaron, any comments or questions?
Let me start on my side. Thank you very much. You hear me? So yes, thank you for your presentation. It's very comprehensive. Again, your project is really ticking most of the boxes that the organizers have put to ask for the project bankability. Actually, I have 2 important points. Number 1, you did not present any kind of how revenue streams of the project will be picking up the equity that you are looking for. So we need to know from you about the revenue streams and the revenue streams.
Revenue streams.
Yes, how do you collect the revenues? And connected to this, what is your exit strategy? And what is basically the the turning point that you're moving with the revenue to cover the equity, the equity to debt that you are going to cover. And finally, you did not mention about how you will manage sustainability and ESG dimension of the project. These are my 2 key points. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to recognize, because now that we've had quite a few presentations, it's not just the quality of the presenters, which is absolutely above par, but also the preparation that went into getting them ready and the selection process of selecting such great projects. I want to declare my hand that we are already advocates for Grenada Grows and have them as a part of our matchmaking process. I love this project. I love this project so much. But you finished with so much time. I think you could have started with a bigger picture concept. You landed at the end with the bigger Caribbean region vision. But I feel like you could have started with that there is so much waste and fish and chicken waste. And how do we even scale this even bigger? And then when you're talking about the selling one-to-one to farmers, I'm like, how scalable is that over time? So that's a great place to start, but over time for the project, I see this as having such great potential for growth across the region, across the globe. And this is something that we're advocating for on your behalf. So I love it. I want to see it grow. I want to make sure that you build it in a way that's scalable. I'd love to see what the franchise model is supposed to look like, so that as you get to that point where you've honed the model in Grenada, how do you create a model that then you can easily replicate in other places and then use other types of waste?
Okay. Thank you so much.
Great. No, I just add, I mean, this is a great business and it's scalable, and I think like finding the way to do that is key. Two points that I've seen in similar businesses in the U.S. that have struggled, frankly. One is the collection. So the arrangement that you have, whether it's with the Waste Authority or otherwise, needs to be as enforceable as possible, as specific, and as supported, because if you don't get the feedstock consistently and it's not sorted and it's not delivered at the right quality and the right time, it's a real problem. The other one, which I think it would be good to emphasize, is you have a technology arrangement, right, with a U.S. company. Who is going to do the O&M, the spare parts, the support, because they're actually more complex systems to operate than one would think, and they also require constant inputs. And so making sure that you tell that story about, hey, this is our arrangement to support the operations and the upgrades and the maintenance, because some of these systems are getting more high tech too as they develop over time. But it's a really important business that you're driving.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the floor? We can certainly take one, possibly two, if there are some investors that wish to share on Grenada Grows.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm not sure I heard, but if I did, then forgive me, but health and safety, biohealth and safety of the products that you're going to be processing, what measures do you have in place to ensure that there is no further contamination for workers, for your environment, just general health and safety protocols for the business, please?
Please, you can go ahead.
Sure.
I'm going to invite you, Doctor, to just stand closer to the mic so that
sorry.
we can carry across the
Yes. So my background is ecotoxicology as well, so having a safe environment is key. One of the reasons we also have UE helping with the product testing and feasibility and validity, that's really the reason for that. So we are keen on having an organic product that is safe to use, and also the safety of our workers is going to be key. So we do have our measures in place. Thanks for the question.
Thank you. I can take one final comment from the floor if there is one. And if there is not, I'd like us to give a round of applause to this outstanding company, Grenada Goes. Thank you, Doctor, for your work. And thank you to all of our investors and panelists for your feedback. At this time, we do have one more video presentation, so if you can focus on the screens in front of me now.
business is an exercise in resilience and innovation, and the Caribbean region's future looks brighter than ever. It's time for medium, small, and micro enterprises to discover their fullest potential, and Caribbean Export is here to ramp up its support. We empower companies to innovate and adapt in this high-risk and competitive environment by delivering cutting-edge, high-impact, and targeted initiatives to enhance trade and promote growth. Working with MSMEs in 15 Caribbean countries to increase exports, attract investment, and create jobs. We've provided support to over 9,015 stakeholders, including providing technical assistance, business coaching, grant funding, and mentorship. You can access specialized export programs, trade intelligence, and information on financing from our Knowledge Hub. We work with you to get results, increase sales, build and develop new products and services, export and expand into new markets, establish global networks and partnerships, transition businesses to the green economy and boost emerging sectors, drive regional integration to build resilience and sustainability in the Caribbean, and create more jobs and opportunities. Visit our website at carib-export.com and find out how you can be a part of building a resilient and transformative private sector in the Caribbean region.
Resilient and transformative, phenomenal words from the organizers of this event, and certainly we see that in the businesses that have been presented thus far. We've come to the end of the road, and so we have one final presentation, and we're looking forward to hearing from the CEO of Chicken in Farm Limited, Karen Crosdale, CEO of Chicken in Farm Limited. Can we get a round of applause for Mr. Crosdale as he makes his way? And I think was it Karen? Karen, I pronounced it incorrectly. So thank you, Karen, and forgive me for that. One more round of applause to him as he comes. It's not always easy to wrap up the room, but I'm sure he's going to do a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
Green button, leave it at the front. There you go. Excellent.
Good evening. My name is Karen Crossdale. I am the CEO of Grenada Chicken Farm Limited. I am an accountant and an entrepreneur. Our company is a AgTech startup, and today we'll do a pitch and hopefully get some funding. Show of hands of those who eat chicken. No? Show of hands if you know where the chicken came from. Okay. How about show of hands if you know when and where the chicken was processed and packaged? 21 million pounds of chicken is consumed in Grenada each year, and 19 pounds out of the 21 million is imported. £21 million consumed, 19 million pounds imported. Generally, the imported meat is about 6 months or older. Would you eat chicken that's been in your freezer for 6 months? Yeah? Okay, so the alternative is locally produced chicken, which is 2, 3, 4 times more expensive than the imported. Why is that? Locally, there's no hatchery, and the feed producer produces the feed that's inferior quality and high price. And therefore, the chicken that's produced locally is very expensive and not of the best quality. Okay, our business model was developed while I was on vacation in Grenada on the beach. There was a gentleman listening to a talk show, and the topic of discussion was poultry. The callers kept on calling in, and he got so much heat that he started to blame others and the government why there is no locally produced chicken on the island. This got my brain thinking. As an entrepreneur, this is a business opportunity that's worth pursuing. And therefore, I started to do some research. One of the callers, actually most of the callers were saying, despite the high price of local chicken, there's a high demand, but there's just no supply. Therefore, we have built a vertically integrated precision agriculture facility that will produce 12 million pounds, which is about 57% of the local demand. We have built an hatchery, which will provide day-old chicks for ourselves and the farmers, and we will also build a feed mill that will produce feed for ourselves and also the farmers. This will simultaneously reduce the cost of locally produced chickens, in addition to increasing the quality. Our buildings are 300 feet long. We have 6 buildings. We will retrofit each building with a water catchment facility to harvest rainwater and also to generate solar power to subsidize the cost of our production. There is so much excitement locally about what we are doing that we already have large wholesalers, hotels, restaurants, and even importers already signed up for us to be their supplier. While most of our revenues will be generated from B2B sales, additional sales will come from marketing of baby chicks and feed. So where are we now? We are 90% complete in our construction. Implementation of our equipment is ongoing, and we're actually in the process of hiring individuals for a go-live date of January 2024. We expect to earn $12 million in sales by 2026, and you, the investors, will realize an ROE of 10% in year 0, meaning you don't have to wait until 3 or 4 or 5 years for you to get a return. The return will start immediately. How will we get there? Very simple. Our products is superior in quality, and pricing will be very competitive. This will be a win-win for the consumers, the local economy, and the government. In addition to job creation, we will reduce the food import bill and improve the nation's food security. I have put together a team of savvy veterans within the industry to guide us through the implementation phase and minimize execution risk. I'm leading the team due to my track record of already creating successful businesses in Canada, and I've already created successful businesses within Canada, and these consultants will assist me in the implementation phase. This will allow me to avoid implementation risk, and we are here today to raise $1.2 million at a minimum to enable us to finalize the funding and the construction of phase 1. However, we would like to raise more funding that will allow us to complete all the aspects of the project. Our project is unique in that it's very replicable. You can take it to any island, any country, and replicate it. The taxi driver told me on the way in that there's 10 KFCs here on this island, but there's no chicken farm. And therefore, you could easily bring this concept here to the Bahamas and replicate it. So question for the investors is, what's stopping you from investing in food security in your country?
Thank you, Mr. Crossdale. He's asking the investors questions before they can ask him. At this time, we would like to turn things over to our investors. I will take one person from the floor first, if we have any investors from the floor who have any questions for Mr. Crossdale.
First question is, you said that there are 90% of the chickens in Grenada are imported.
Correct.
Who's responsible for the other 10%?
Local farmers.
How many of them are there?
There are 230 of them.
230 local farmers importing 10% of the chicken.
Correct.
How much of that market do you expect to tap into with your production? How much of the market are you expecting to tap into with your production?
With our capacity, we will be able to do 57% of the market.
57%? Over which period of time?
We will be able to start that within 3 years.
And you are guaranteeing 10% return in year zero?
Yes.
How are you able to do that?
Because our construction is 90% complete.
Yeah, but you were guaranteeing 10% return to an investor
Yes.
in year zero.
So our go live date is January,
Yes.
which means our revenue generating capacity is already imminent. And the normal return on a poultry farm is 20% because we have the feed control and we have the hatchery control. We are adding back the markups that those companies would have charged were it not be a vertically integrated system. So the 10% is actually a conservative number, right? We're hoping to return about 30% on the project itself, return 10% to the investors, and reinvest 20% to the development of the project itself.
In year zero?
In year zero.
I would love to see those numbers again from you.
Yeah, we can have a chat. What's your name, sir?
I'll get
Okay, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Sumner. I would like to take a question from our panel now, or comments. Aaron?
Yeah, quickly, it seems so obvious, right? But well done. I mean, just local food supplies are completely decentralized, and the fact that you're bringing together is huge. Actually, a question I don't know the answer to, you probably is, what type of arrangements do you have with the customers just to provide, and is there a way to provide investors with a bit more certainty about your sales outlook in terms of commitments, even if it's relatively short-term, volume commitments, anything? I think anything like that to get into, okay, we've got this level of interest, we've got this level of commitment, this is the size, that would help potentially, because I believe it's quite significant, but being able to kind of have that down would be good.
I have in writing actually signed letters of intent to purchase from customers right now. We are in the process of negotiating with the Ministry of Education in providing the schools with 17 cases on average per school per week. And we're hoping to get that in writing before the next school year, which is in next year, September. We have another store, a kosher store. We're actually in negotiations right now for a contract for them to rent out our facilities to kosher chicken and store it in our freezer on site. And as they need it, we'll supply it. So these are not concepts. These are actual discussions that already have occurred. And again, there's nobody else locally that's doing what we're doing. There's just nothing else. The 10% that's already been produced, it's basically consumed before it hits the market, right? Some of the stores, they're needing 10, 15,000 chickens a week. They're only getting 2,000.
Okay, thank you for that. If you would be so kind as to let us know, Raquel, if there are any concerns for you.
Sure. I think, thank you so much. You probably have the strongest start with asking and engaging the audience and asking them questions and getting them to respond. I think you wrapped our attention from moment one. But when you got to import tariff, I had some major mash breaks moment. So tell me about what's the price premium that we're going to have to pay for your chicken, and what is the import tariff? Because Diaka Morrison, who's in the audience, I think she was in government in Jamaica when they they imposed an import tariff on chicken, and it was an absolute riot. People, in concept, food security makes a lot of sense, and you want your food made locally as much as possible, but not if it's going to cost you more at the end of the day. So I'd really want to understand what's the premium that you're going to have to pay for this chicken, and then and how are you working on the PR around that? I think the other thing that I am interested in is, as much as it makes sense for you to do this at scale in Grenada and then look at doing it at scale somewhere else, as a CARICOM region, why aren't we looking at creating centers of excellence in one place and considering food security not on a national level, but on a regional level? So would you then consider doing the production of chicken in Grenada and serving several countries rather than sort of moving it around the region and saying, okay, well, we set up a plant here, set up a plant here, so that we're looking at being more cost competitive by having more scale?
One of the things I have done is engage with Dr. Desmond Ali. He's been the president of the Caribbean Poultry Association for about 30 years. And we've discussed my concept in other islands before. And this is something that we will try to pursue. And in fact, I've met with the credit manager of the development bank here in Bahamas. And him and I have already had that discussion about pursuing that in the future if it's right.
And the premium price that you're going to have to pay for the chicken?
Because we are in control of our costs, we're not sourcing outside feed, we're not sourcing outside baby chicks. We have that added benefit of reduced production costs. In addition, with the water harvesting and the solar plants on site, that's going to subsidize our energy usage and water costs. Again, it gives us a competitive advantage over the imported, because now, instead of paying, $2.50 for an imported Thai per pound, it will be $2.65 for locally produced fresh. That is not, almost a year old.
Thank you, Kieran, for your presentation. I like your project very much. I just wanted to ask about what is your procedure for the exit strategy for these 1.2 million to give to the investors with you? Is that would be through IPO or through dividends? This is number one. My second point, you talked about, or you had a slide about your team, but you did not explain enough about the ESG business model, how you will maintain the waste management going out of the your manufacturing for the broiler. That's the number one. The second important issue is actually about, will you consider any kind of circularity for this waste? It's very important to ensure there will be climate change positive impact with your intervention. So 2 points: what is the exit strategy? What type of business model you are going to do? Is that IPO or dividend? And the second, ESG business model. Thank you very much. Again, congratulations for the excellent project. You are a good entrepreneur. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, but yes, I still need to have his answers. Yeah. Wait, please.
Okay, so the exit strategy. Yes, it will be equity. The project is financed by myself, 75%, and 25% debt at the moment. With the additional equity, we'll be able to refinance the debt and continue the construction. And it will be, the 10% will be dividends.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Waste management. You heard a chuckle because Dr. Tellisford actually approached me for my waste.
Connections. Collaborations, yeah.
Yes. We do, however, have a biogas digester. Right? So her and I will talk about that in detail, because if she's able to take that off of our hands, then it's one less thing for us to worry about. But if not, then the opportunity for us is there to earn revenues from biofertilizer.
I would really appreciate if you contact me after the discussion. I'm ready to finance part of this equity from the fund that we have. Thank you.
Excellent. All right, Danielle, we are wrapping up here, but did you have anything for us online before we go?
I don't want to take up too much time. I just wanted to say going last is not easy. You did a brilliant job, really engaging both the audience and the panel and everything. I know that the poultry industry needs this kind of approach, a real commercial approach to the broiler production, and I think bringing that feed in-house is critical to that. You know, that normally takes up, depends on where you are, at least probably about 70% of the costs. I just wondered, you know, what to you is your biggest risk that you view, and you know how you're planning to mitigate that. But congratulations and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Crossdale. Let's give him a round of applause. And thank you so much to all of you for staying with us, especially to our panel. Of course, we've been speaking with Ahmed Badair, Danielle Abrahams online, Raquel Moses, Erin Weilenberg. From the floor, we had Rafael Gonzalez, Fernando Zuniga, Edison Sumner, and Dika Morrison. And at this time, I would like to welcome back Michaela Stout. Of course, she's been responsible for pulling this panel together, making sure that these presentations were ready for us, and she's going to come and give us closing remarks and next steps. Let's welcome Michaela Stout from the Caribbean Export Development Agency.
Thank you, Anastasia. So thank you for joining us for this AgTech and Renewable Energy Investment Village. Today we would have heard from exciting, innovative, and investment-ready packaged products from across the Caribbean. At this time, I would like to thank the audience for your engagement. I would like to thank Invest Caribbean. I'd also like to thank the project owners as well for your presentations. As a next step, if you're interested in finding out more about these projects, you can contact the project owners directly, or feel free to contact us at Caribbean Export. So thanks to you, all the panelists, speakers, investors for joining us. I wish you a great evening and continue to enjoy the offerings of CIF 2023 as we transition to a bold new Caribbean. Thank you.